Hello and welcome to Mace Crochet. I am Rachel. If you cannot tell, I have been sick. So this is going to be my wrap up for September for my 2025 movie blanket. I'll explain that in a minute, which means I've been working on it all month. So I'm not like this the entire video, just the back half of it, the intro right now and the outro, because I filmed this and the last 4 square wrap ups on the same day. So it's a little rough, I'm sorry, but the show must go on. Like I said, it is my September movie wrap up. If you do not know, I have decided that all year in 2025, I am watching 16 movies a month, or trying. So far, so good. I've made 16 every month. It could be brand new to me, could be rewatches. Doesn't matter when they came out. Anyway, I'm watching them and I'm rating them on a very easy scale of 1, 2, or 3, making a 4x4 square. And at the end of the year, it'll be a 3x4 with big square for the entire year. Okay, so for the rating system, we have yellow, which is 1. It simply means I do not want to watch it again, or I don't need to watch it again. Normally, it means it was a bad movie. To me, it was a bad movie. Poorly made, poorly acted, bad storyline. I mean, just all the bad things. Dumb, could be anything. Not necessarily, though, and today I'll have a couple of examples of that. Maybe it's just a story or a movie that was very well made. I just don't need to watch it again. Like, I've seen it, I'm good. You know, that happens. Pink is a 2, and it means it could go either way. I could watch this again, or I don't have to. It's fine. And blue is a 3. It means I absolutely loved it, and I need to watch this again at some point. It's really resonated with me in some way, and I will be thinking about it for a long time. Now that's the solid colors, the full solid colors of any of those are new to me watches. If it's one of those colors surrounded by purple, it is a rewatch. So that's it. This was last month, which was, August? So this is August. This is what every month will look like, 4x4s. And then again, it'll be 3 across and 4 down at the end of the year for all 12 months. So 2 months ago, starting in July, I changed the formatting of how I was doing these, because the first 6 months I was making the squares and talking about the movies at the same time. However, I do have trouble trying to gather my thoughts on things like this and crochet at the same time. And it was rough. It was really rough editing. So for July and August, I changed the format to where I was making the squares but not talking. And then I would show that and do a voiceover having written something down and gathered my thoughts. And then speed up the footage of me making the square to go with the audio of how I felt about the movie. Unfortunately, I did not like that either. It just felt really stiff and formal, because I was literally reading a script that I had written, and whenever I formulate my thoughts like that, of course I condense them. So then, I mean, some things I was like talking for like maybe 30 whole seconds on, and some things I think the longest was maybe 2.5, 3 minutes for like 28 years later, and that was very rare. So I really wasn't vibing with that either, and I was just finding it hard to want to sit down and actually write my thoughts down, to then turn around and record them, to turn around and sync them up with me making the squares. I thought it was going to be an easier editing process. It was not. I did not like that at all. So I am once again changing things, and I'm kind of combining the best of both worlds. So I have made the squares without talking about it while making them. However, I'm not doing a voiceover. I will simply talk about the movie, and then I'll be putting the video of me making the square up here, because as I can just talk, I don't rush through anything because I haven't written it down and made it more efficient, which sounds bad, but it feels more natural to me. So that's how it's going to go. Most of the video will be me standing here talking about the movies while making the square. Still, they normally top out around 3 minutes or so after editing. Remakes, I did not make the remake squares on camera. I do just talk about them very briefly. And there were only 3 this month. There were 13 new to me movies, and that gets into my second point. I know this is a very long intro, and I'm very sorry, but there's just a couple of changes. I decided that this month, for the most part, the majority of the films I watched this month were going to be films that have been sitting around on streaming platforms for a really long time, because the streaming platforms own those movies, and I've been putting them off. So mostly it's Netflix. And I'm talking, it went back to 2017, a movie that I just hit add to my list, and I'm like, I'll get around to it, because Netflix owned it and distributed it. Like, it may have had a very short runtime in the theater and then went to Netflix, or it's from another country and Netflix just, distribute it here in the United States. It starts off with one from Prime, and then it ends with one from HBO, and then all the others are from Netflix. Now, there are some 2025 movies in here that have hit streaming over the month that I've also caught up with, but it's mostly me clearing out some of these films that I've been like, yeah, I'll get to it, and now I finally got into it. Anyway, that is it for all of the introductory stuff. Let's actually get into me making squares and talking about all the films I watched this month, and I have gone back to the 4 at a time sequence, so let's get started. Okay, hopefully future me has made a nice little introduction to tell you about the new format that I am doing for these last 4 videos. Maybe, if this one even works out. I'm still experimenting. It's only the middle of the month and I have no clue what I'm doing, as usual. I'm gonna stand a little over here just so I can put up the video right here of me physically making the square while I talk about me making the square. All right, we ready to go? Cool. Okay, I know I said at the beginning that this was about clearing out my Netflix watch list this month, mostly. I mean, overall, any streaming platform that has its own movies, but mostly Netflix. That's where they've been collecting the most dust. And I did not do that at first. I actually started on Amazon Prime. I wanted something simple to kind of start the month off with, and I watched Another Simple Favor that they put out earlier this year, though I could have sworn it was a couple of years ago. However, I was wrong. Oh, okay, so this time, Emily, after being incarcerated at the end of the first one, has gotten out after like 5 years. Stephanie has written a book. She became really popular, but now she's fading in popularity on her YouTube channel and things like that. And Emily's like, hey, I'm getting married in Capri. I want you to be my maid of honor and you have to come. And it's like, didn't you just try to kill her at the end of the last one? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I actually haven't watched the first one since it was in the theater. I did enjoy it. I just have never rewatched it. Anyway, so then there's this whole big mystery going on of what is Emily up to? Are there other parties involved? It was so far-fetched and overreaching for anything, like comedy and mystery and entertainment value in general. It was painful. I hated every single second of this, and I regret watching it at all, honestly. They didn't even feel like the same characters from the first movie. I thought the first movie was really fun and dark humor and had a great air of mystery to it, but highly entertaining. And I'm not even sure these were the same people. Definitely the same actresses, still Blake Lively, still Anna Kendrick, but I'm not sure they were the same characters. And it didn't make much sense, honestly. Like, none of it worked out. It was just kind of dumb and boring. So yeah, it was an absolute letdown. Moving on. So I didn't film it, but we did finish up the Dark Knight trilogy with the girls on our Saturday family movie night. And I mean, I love all 3. The second one's the best. Like, The Dark Knight is the best. And to follow that up, I cannot imagine the undertaking. But it doesn't quite get to Dark Knight levels, but it's still a very entertaining, very good movie. And it's all about Bane. It is all about Tom Hardy and that silly voice. I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh. I never know, but I do. Brad and I just sit there and chuckle the entire time because that voice, it's something. It is something. And I adore Tom Hardy. I think he does not take life too seriously. It seems like interviews, the parts he plays, all the silly voices he does not take things seriously, but he is a very good actor when he turns it on. This entire time, like, they talk about how scary Bane is, and I'm like, but have you heard him talk? Yeah, so it's a good movie. It's a very entertaining movie. Can't live up to its predecessor, but not much can. All right, since I had watched one Christian Bale movie, I'm like, throw in another. And I watched The Pale Blue Eye on Netflix. This has been on my list for several years. It is a fictionalized story of Edgar Allan Poe's time at West Point, is it? And there's a murder of one of the cadets. They bring in this old, grizzled, retired, seasoned detective, played by Christian Bale, to figure out what's going on, because, of course, it looks really, really bad. And not only was he murdered, but then his heart was cut out. So the detective ends up working with Edgar Allan Poe, played by Harry Melling, Dudley Dursley from the Harry Potter movies, to figure out what's going on. And they work together. There's some really weird stuff happening. I didn't dislike it, but I never need to see it again, because with the mystery, it gets to the end and, you think everything's been revealed, and it's one of those, oh wait, no, it was really this. And they showed their last card. And I wasn't suspecting it all along, but I wasn't impressed by it either. I think I've just consumed too much media where they do that, like, bait and switch, or not even really a bait and switch, but they pull the rug out from under you at the last second trying to aha you. And at this point, I'm just not that surprised anymore. It's not that I see them coming. I'm not saying I'm clever and I can spot it a mile away. No, that's definitely not how it goes. But I'm just like, okay, well,
it wasn't this thing, it was this thing. All right, fine, movie's over, or book or whatever. It's just, I think I've just consumed too much of it in film and literature over the last couple of years. Because I read through a lot of mysteries last year that were like that, and it gets a little old, honestly. It's like, oh, you think it's this thing? Nope, we gotcha. So yeah, it just wasn't that surprising, really. And I have a real problem where there are men in uniform and I can't tell them apart. Like, there were so many young actors playing these cadets. They all looked the exact same, except for like one guy who was on Ozark. That was it. And then of course Harry Melling I knew, but everybody else looked exactly alike, and I didn't know who any of the characters were. That's more of a me problem, I think, but it does keep me from enjoying it because I can't really get into who the characters are. Christian Bale was good. I mean, everybody was good. Gillian Anderson plays, she's in it. She is so over the top, and it feeds into a lot of part of the mystery, but it was almost painful to watch our Dana Scully be that extra. So I don't recommend it, but if you have an interest, I mean, obviously do whatever you're going to do. It was fine, I guess. And then lastly, I know this seems like a really bad start to the month, and it wasn't great, but I finally watched Cargo from 2017. And the only reason I wanted to watch this is because it is by the same filmmakers who made a 7-minute short 4 years prior with the exact same storyline. And this did exactly what I was afraid it was going to do by taking that 7 minutes and turning it to like almost a 2-hour film. And that is just add a bunch of unnecessary stuff. It's about a father in the zombie apocalypse in Australia. He has been bitten, and his wife is now dead. She was also bitten and then killed in a car accident. Well, he had to finish her off after she had turned. And he spends the remaining time, he has about 48 hours until he knows he's going to turn, and he's got to find a safe haven for his infant daughter. And the 7-minute short, which I will try to remember to link below if I can find it, is so good. It tells such a wonderful story in just 7 minutes about like unconditional love and the sacrifice you have to make, and when you know the end is near, but you still have to stay strong to save somebody you love. It is incredible. I mean, it's not high, big budget or anything, but it is so good. And it came out like at the height of the whole zombie thing with The Walking Dead and everything. And this 7 minutes, and they told such a beautiful story. Unfortunately, this film just added so much unnecessary fluff. Yeah, it's Martin Freeman, and I think he's the only one I recognized. They start the movie with him and his wife like on a boat on the river, and then she gets bitten, so they got to get to the land. And then they get in that car accident that begins the short, and she bites him, and that's like 30, 40 minutes of the movie, something like that. And they took all this extra time, and they didn't really even get into like the actual zombie apocalypse at all. Like, there's clearly, this is not like your typical just bite and get infected and go on. There's other weird stuff, how they know exactly how much time they have. There's this weird like sap stuff that the people start excreting or growing, which is a very definite sign of turning. This isn't like a complete apocalypse because he actually believes he can get her to a hospital because he says there's still a chance, and I don't know if that's something he was just saying to keep the wife calm, or if there really is, like, it's not definite if you get bit, you're going to turn. There just wasn't enough exposition, which I hate to say because we all know exposition's a pain in the ass sometimes if it's done poorly, but they added all this time without adding any lore. And it's like, why bother? You told the perfect story in 7 minutes. Why did you need an hour and 50 something? Like, I'm glad the filmmakers were able to expand upon their original idea. I think that's great. I really do. It's just not something I felt was necessary when they had such a great story in such a short amount of time. And that is it for this block of 4 films. The next segment will start right about now. All right, let's get to our next 4 films of the month, and they are mostly from Netflix and mostly new. One that is not, so 75%, not bad. But first I'm gonna stand over here so you can see me make the squares in the video up here. And first is 2022's The Gray Man with Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. It is about a guy who is offered a chance to get out of prison if he works, I believe it's the FBI, one of those government agencies, but he's in the gray area, which means he basically doesn't exist, and he's not going to get some big happy hero welcome or ending or anything like that. He just does what they tell him to. He's recruited by Billy Bob Thornton at the beginning, out of prison. He's very good, very, very good. And then after so many years, Billy Bob Thornton has retired. And then the guy who took his place is trying to get rid of the Gray Man project or section of the FBI, and so he's trying to basically kill them all off, and his favorite psychopath to use to do that is played by Chris Evans. So very against type from our sweet, wonderful Captain America. But speaking of Captain America, this movie was written and directed, well, at least directed by, I can't remember if it's written by, I'd have to look it up, the Russo brothers, who did a couple of Captain America movies and a couple of Avengers movies. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. I really love Ryan Gosling. Not since The Notebook. I'm not one of those people. There are plenty of them, but I'm not one of them. It took many years before I liked him, but I love him now. And I really enjoy Chris Evans' work since The Avengers. He's kind of played against type quite a bit, Knives Out, and now this. So that's a lot of fun. And when there was dialogue and character building, it was really good. Unfortunately, there was just way too much action. It was almost as bad as the later John Wick films that are good, they're entertaining, but it's a lot sometimes. And I really wish there had been more fun dialogue and especially fun scenes between those two, because Chris Evans is trying to kill Ryan Gosling's character. It's also got a pretty good cast with Billy Bob Thornton, Anna de Armas, and Regé Jean Page. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. The Duke from the first season of Bridgerton. I just wish there was a little less action. A lot less action. 15% less action. More banter. Doesn't need a lot of character building. I think I got enough of that, honestly. But more banter, more witty banter would have been great. But I did enjoy it, and I would watch it again. So the next, I wasn't sure if I was in the mood for more action, because I think I watched these on the same day. But I did start Carry On. It wasn't as action heavy as the previous film, so I ended up doing just fine. And it stars Jason Bateman and Taron Egerton. It is Christmas Eve, busiest travel day of the year, and he is a TSA agent. Taron Egerton is a TSA agent. He is engaged, boyfriend of somebody else who works in the airport. They just found out she's pregnant. Anyway, it's a big ordeal, of course. And then Jason Bateman is kind of the brains behind a terrorist plot to get a gas bomb onto a plane, and he had the last minute has to target Taron Egerton to help him do that, as Taron Egerton's first day, like, doing the scanning belt for the carry-on luggage. There's a whole backstory about him not having any sort of initiative in his job, and anyway, he finally gets a chance to do that instead of just doing, I guess, the wand and the metal detectors and that kind of stuff. Anyway, he gets targeted very last minute, not part of the plan, but it is him trying to outsmart Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman stopping him at every turn because, of course, he's got tons of backup and eyes in the sky, and, you know, they've hacked into all of the security systems and everything, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was clever enough for what it was. I mean, of course, I know nothing about TSA and what if this would even be possible, but it seemed real. They made it feel real and not over the top, and just not eye-rollingly bad. Like, some plots like this can get just so dumb, you're like, this would literally never happen. Though I feel like this definitely could potentially happen. Really good tension, and so this wasn't the action that I was afraid it was going to be when I started it, and then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. It ended up, I mean, yes, there's action, especially toward the end as the climax happens and everything, but it is much more of a suspense thriller, and are these guys going to get away with it, or is Taron Egerton going to get to have a nice Christmas with his pregnant girlfriend? So very entertaining, clever, I guess. Like I said, I know nothing about TSA, but it felt clever and had some really good characterization, I think. And so yeah, I would definitely watch it again, even though I know how it ends. I would give it another watch. So then it was Saturday night family movie time, and we asked the girls what they wanted to watch, because Brad and I have been showing them stuff for a really long time. And they picked The Greatest Showman. Okay, look. The movie's a great production. It really is. The music is good, though I don't hear it anymore. It is just white noise to me because I've heard it so many times in the car as it's been requested on car rides, so I don't even notice when it's playing anymore. But, you know, great dancing, costume sets, everything. It's very beautiful to look at. It is a great production, like I said. However, unfortunately, I feel like I'm just being lied to through the whole movie, and at the time, I didn't know much about P.T. Barnum, but it felt fake. All of it felt like a lie. I just knew that he wasn't some wonderful, benevolent man who just wanted to start a show and showcase these people who, you know, society had banished for their looks. I knew it was crap while watching it, and they're trying to pull the wool over my eyes with, like, a pretty production and catchy songs, right? And then you look up anything about P.T. Barnum and you know he was a garbage human being. So I don't understand why they couldn't have just made up a character loosely based on P.T. Barnum and then just had it like a fantasy. I mean, it already feels like a fantasy. Why did they have to bring a real life person into it who is known to be a horrible human being? It doesn't make sense. So I really wish they had done that, because the whole time I'm just thinking, wow, he was trash, and you're just sugarcoating it, aren't you? So I try to let it go. They enjoy it. It's fun, but at the same time I'm like, ugh, and you had to use Hugh Jackman too? Okay, fine. You know, okay, whatever. Greatest Showman. It's good. I just wish it was all 100% fake with no real connection to our world at all. And then lastly, Marriage Story from I think 8 years ago now is one I've been meaning to watch for the longest time. But it's basically about a couple who are both in the world of acting, Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. She grew up in LA, had a famous TV mom, and she and her sister both went into acting. She got a huge role in a teen movie when she was very young and had a very promising career until she met him, and he wanted to do theater in New York. Whether he made money or not, that's what he wanted, so she followed him out there. And things didn't work out. After 10 years, they need to split up. At first, they're trying to do it amicably through a mediator, and they do have a son. And she's always wanted to go back to California, and she's gotten a chance at a TV pilot. And so they apparently both have very different ideas of what is going on in their lives, because he seems to think that she's going to do the TV pilot and then come back to New York with their son. And she seems to think, I'm moving to California with our son. And it gets ugly. It gets really ugly really fast when she talks to a divorce attorney played by Laura Dern, who I do believe won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And then it just turns really nasty really quickly. It is loosely, or maybe not so loosely, based on writer-director Noah Baumbach's real-life divorce from Jennifer Jason Leigh. And even though you get a little bit of the wife's story, Nicole, at the beginning, it is very much how all of this affects Charlie, because if it's from Noah Baumbach's point of view, then it's going to be how it affects the husband. And it's just hard to pick sides because they both seem like really shit people. When she moves out to California and he comes out constantly back and forth from New York, she does seem to really have it out for him, which, I mean, from the things she brings up about what he did in the marriage, sounds fine to me. But they do both seem to be awful people who are just trying to hurt the other one more than anything, instead of trying to split but still have a son together. And it's good, don't get me wrong. The acting is superb. The characterization, excellent. I just never want to sit through something like that again. It is too harsh. And it does go on way too long. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something. It is way too long for what it is. I mean, there's like 2 musical numbers in it. I mean, it's like karaoke, but I'm like, why did we need this? So it feels weird to give it a 1 because it is very good. It's just, this is not something I ever need to sit through again because it is just too harsh. And that is it for this block of films.
Hi. I'm not feeling so great, but the show must go on, right? It's just a cold. I'll be fine. However, I have 4 more movies to talk about. So yeah, all the videos that you're going to see up here, I was like this, only in my pajamas at the time of making the squares. So that's going to happen a lot. Anyway, I can do this, okay? Look, I did an entire run of Romeo and Juliet as Lady Capulet with severe laryngitis once upon a time. I can make it through, like, talking about 4 movies with a cold, right? Right? Okay, great. So I'm going to step over here with my tissues. And we'll talk about the movies. I might not say a lot. I might not say anything that makes a damn lick of sense, but I'll talk about it. Okay, so first is Hitman from 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not looking it up right now, but it's another Netflix movie that stars Glenn Powell. He plays kind of a nerdy-ish psychology professor who also works at the police department. He's not a police officer, and he works for the police department, helping set up wiretaps. It's like a special interest of his. And it's usually scenarios in which people are trying to hire an undercover cop portraying a hitman to put out a hit on somebody. And then once they say out loud, I want you to, kill this person, and the money leaves their hand, then when they leave the meeting place, they get arrested. Well, the usual cop that is doing this is suspended for being an asshole. And Gary, the main character, Gary Johnson, played by Glenn Powell, has to go in suddenly out of nowhere. They're like, yeah, this makes sense. And they send him in, and he does a very convincing job. And he does it a lot over and over again, that he becomes their go-to, even though he's not a cop, but he's very good at this. And then, of course, it gets to a point where he goes undercover and meets somebody, and she wants a hit, but he talks her out of it. But, he falls in love with her at the same time. It was entertaining. It was a lot of fun, and it definitely went in a direction that I did not see coming at all. I did not expect that ending, but I mean, I appreciate it. I like it when a movie surprises me. It's kind of hard to do these days. So I was pleasantly surprised by Glenn Powell in this, because he does slip in and out of these, like the main character of Gary, and then like the personas, especially the main persona being Ron, this really sexy, suave hitman that he's portraying to woo the lady. He does slip in and out of it very well. And I don't have anything against Glenn Powell, but I do feel like he's just kind of ridden the good-looking, charming guy thing, more or less playing the same character in all the movies I've seen of him. Not that I've seen a lot, but I didn't see a lot of range before this. I felt like he had a little bit more range, so that was nice to see. It was very entertaining. It is loosely based off a true story. It's one of those, like, somebody did a profile on someone who told him the story of a guy named Gary Johnson, who died, I think, while this film was being made, actually. So he never got to see it, but who knows how much of it's actually true. But it was fun. It was a good time. Okay, so I decided to give the Netflix movies a small break and catch up on some 2025 films that have hit streaming or on demand. And I watched Weapons. That was something. Oh my goodness. So without giving too much away, a classroom of 17 children, I think they're third grades, about 8 years old, disappear overnight, one night, middle of the night. And all that's left is one of the other students named Alex and the teacher. And so everybody is freaked, obviously. I mean, they literally just disappear. And they're all from like suburban neighborhoods. So like everybody is caught on the ring cam, like running out the front door in the middle of the night, or the alarm system's go off, and they just run off. And there's no trace of them. 17 8-year-olds. Okay. So the story is then told from various POVs, starting with the teacher, played by Julia Garner. And her name's Justine. And everybody, like, the whole town blames her. She thinks, like, she's brainwashed these children as their teacher to do something, to just, like, leave. And then it goes to the father of one of the boys, played by Thanos. I'll get it in a second. Hang on, give me a second. Josh Brolin. Okay, I got it, Josh Brolin. Because he has become absolutely obsessed. Obviously, I mean, like, his child is missing. Obviously, he's obsessed. But, like, he's trying to do, like, the detective work behind it. And he doesn't feel like the police are doing anything, of course. There's that feeling. And then it goes on through several other people. Each time, with each POV taking place over several days, a month after the occurrence, the school had closed down for a month, and now it's reopening. So these people are trying to go on with their lives or figure out what's been going on. So with each new POV, there's a little bit of the mystery revealed up until the final chapter, which is Alex, the one boy who did not disappear in the middle of the night. And then everything is revealed at that point. Slowly, I mean, not all at once, but you get a pretty good idea pretty quickly once his chapter starts. It's one of those, man, the mystery, I think, is definitely better than the reveal, but I have no idea what kind of reveal would have made this like a perfect movie. Like, there's no way that they could have written any kind of ending or solution or anything that would have been like, oh my gosh, the whole thing is just wacky. And so I would watch it again just to see if I could pick up on clues a little earlier, because it's a good, almost, I'd say, like an hour and 10 minutes of the mystery of the previous POVs before we get to Alex and what he knows and how he's involved with everything. I enjoyed the anticipation of what was coming up, and instead of the actual reveal of what was going on. Not that it was bad, it was just different. Yeah, it was wild. And there was some very interesting, like, I feel like the movie was maybe trying to say something, but it was so vague that it was lost on me. So I did enjoy it. It was something. I don't want to say too much, obviously, because it is one of those that you really, really need that mysterious element to appreciate it overall, I think. So next up is Superman. And just a couple months ago, I watched the Christopher Reeve Superman from 1970, whatever. And I said then that I've never been the biggest Superman fan. And so I am very biased. And yeah, I am not the biggest Superman fan. I did not like this movie. First of all, I didn't understand what was going on half the time. Like, I feel like there was a lot of weird shit happening. Lex Luthor, his plot, and just weird sci-fi stuff, and I don't even know. I mean, they tried to explain it with some text at the beginning. We get into, like, Superman's been around for about 3 years at this point, being Superman in Metropolis. His relationship with Lois Lane's already started up, even though they're keeping it quiet, or they think they are. So it's not like an origin story by any means. But God, I hated it. I think I genuinely hated this movie. I either was lost and had no clue what was going on, or I was just rolling my eyes because it was so stupid what they were showing me. And I don't know if this is just the way Superman is. Like the Christopher Reeve one I watched a few months ago, it was very silly and over the top in parts, especially Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. But the rest of it was just kind of more boring than anything. This one was just, like I said, I was either lost or it was so stupid. I did not know how to react. I was like, is this really what Superman is, or is this what comic book movies are? I'm also just very confused about the DCEU. I understand, I believe it's done now. However, you have John Cena in this movie playing Peacemaker, who was in the last Suicide Squad movie, also written and directed by James Gunn. I'll get into that in a minute. In this movie with Superman. However, apparently the Suicide Squad movie that John Cena did, and now he has his own HBO show, is not part of the DCEU, even though it has all the same characters from the first Suicide Squad movie that was in the DCEU, but now we have a brand new Superman who's not part of the DCEU. But Henry Cavill was, I am so confused and kind of pissed because it's very annoying to just, the constant reboots, you guys. I'm exhausted. Like, this is why people have superhero fatigue. I mean, I know I shit all over the MCU with the stuff they're putting out and all the TV shows, but at least they're all in the same damn universe. DC is a mess. I don't get it. Overall, James Gunn I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I liked his movie Slither. I'm not sure there's much else by him I've really ever loved. He has always struck me as somebody who's very immature. That's from just like seeing real life stuff of his and then his sense of humor on film. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And overall, I just don't think it does for me. I think Guardians of the Galaxy just hit just right for me, but everything else just kind of falls flat. So that was probably the only thing I enjoyed, even though I didn't understand 95% of what was going on with Lex Luthor. I love Nicholas Hoult. I always love Nicholas Hoult in just about anything. And so I loved him as Lex Luthor. And then have always adored for as long as I can remember, way back on the days of One Life to Live, Nathan Fillion. But this movie was just, it was painfully bad. Like, really dumb. I gotta quit watching Superman. Like, I didn't really love The Man of Steel with Henry Cavill, but I didn't hate it. I just forgot about it. Like, it was just kind of there, you know. Anyway, so I survived that. Barely. So lastly for this block, I watched Novocaine from earlier this year. It is Jack Quaid as somebody with that medical condition that I've seen on like multiple medical dramas, you know, capitalizing on the person without feelings, physical feelings. So I cannot remember the name of the disease right now, but it is a genetic disorder where you do not feel pain. But that also means you don't know when you're sick. You don't know if you have a fever. In this, he didn't even know when he needed to pee, so he had to like literally set a timer to go to the bathroom every like 3 hours. He wouldn't chew solid foods because he was afraid he might bite his tongue off. So he was completely on a liquid diet. Anyway, he is a very sad person. Like, he goes to work as a loan officer at a bank, and he is very introverted and just goes home. Very lonely guy. And then he has a crush on somebody who works at his bank, and they end up hanging out, and he falls for her. Well, the next day after they hook up, the bank is robbed. And they take her as a hostage. And he decides that he is going to chase after them, everything be damned. Like, he gets shot. There's multiple things that happen. Cut up, beat up, all kinds of stuff trying to chase after them to get her back. So I was a little nervous about how they were going to use, like, an actual genetic disorder, very rare actual genetic disorder, and use it to play it up for laughs, you know, because clearly it's a comedy. If you watch the trailer, it's very much a comedy, how, like, he's being tortured by these people that he's chasing, and he feels literally nothing, but he has to fake it to make them think that they're actually doing some harm to him. Just all kinds of stuff. It's very gruesome, obviously. I mean, he gets shot with an arrow, he gets hit with a mace. One of my absolute biggest icks, he gets fingernails pulled out. Like, that is one that makes me just cringe so hard. I think they do a really good job because they spend about 45 minutes at the beginning setting up the struggle he has had living with this condition his entire life, and the fact that it has made him withdraw into himself and be an introvert and not want to put himself out there to meet somebody, and then bring in the connection with Sherry, the woman he works with. So I think they did a really good job of setting that up. Not quite half the movie, but probably a good 40 minutes before the bank robbery even happens and all the action starts. So it's not straight action from the beginning. He's not like some idiot daredevil or anything. So unfortunately, they do play it out a little too long, and it just, by the end, it's just going on and on and on. It's like, yeah, we get it. He can't feel pain. Do we need to see his bone protruding from his arm? No, we don't. We get it. I don't feel like it was entirely a joke, but it did feel a little exploitative by the end, like over the top. So the movie was entertaining. I think it had enough heart in the beginning to balance it out. It's just maybe 15 minutes too long, but that does seem to be my mantra these days. The movie was just too long, so it could be a me problem. But I mean, Jack Quaid did a really good job. I like him in just about everything I see him in. So even if I don't like the project itself, he's pretty good. So he's one of those good Nepo babies, I think. Anyway, that is it for this blog. I'm gonna rest. Hopefully the next time you hear me, I will sound a little better. Just a little bit. Okay, it is time to round out the last 4 films for the month. Voice is still a little rough, but much better than where I last left you. On the mend, doing much better. But first, I'm going to scoot over so we have room for the Rachel who actually made the thing right here. And we'll start off with 2003's Leave the World Behind. It is about Amanda, played by Julia Roberts, and her husband, I think his name was Cal, played by Ethan Hawke. They are very upper middle class, living in Brooklyn. She wakes up one morning and decides, hey, let's take a short vacation. I think school's about to start. It's the end of the season, which makes me think it's the end of summer for the big price hike and house rentals. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so she finds a house out on Long Island, not quite the Hamptons, but pretty close. It's a very, very beautiful house. And they have a wonderful day together, them and their 2 kids, just enjoying getting away from the city, and they go to the beach. Something weird happens. A big boat of some sort, I think it's a barge, I honestly don't know, an oil tanker, something, runs aground. Like, they're out there for hours, and it takes a really long time, but it just heads straight for the coast, and it runs aground. And so it's like, okay, that was weird. And they're just kind of told that the navigation system had gone out, and it had been happening up and down the coast. So they're like, that's strange. They go back to the house, have a wonderful night, and middle of the night, well, maybe not middle, but late at night, the kids are asleep, and Amanda and Cal are up just drinking and playing Jenga when the doorbell rings. Creepy, yeah. And at the door is GH, played by Mahershala Ali, and I don't think she's a very young adult daughter named Ruth. And he's like, hey, I'm the guy who owns the house, and we, went back and forth on email. So we were in the city where we live, and all the power went out. It was really weird. So we decided to head out here to our home. It was just an instinct to come out here and get away from the craziness of the city. We understand you guys are vacationing. I will definitely refund you at least half of what you paid. If we could just, stay the night in our house, we'll sleep in the basement. Not a big deal. Amanda is skeptical. Cal's like, yeah, come on in. Basically, the world's gone to shit. Everything has gone down. And what unfolds over the next couple of days are these 2 very distinctly different families trying to figure it out and go forward from there. It is a very different type of apocalyptic film for sure, because it is very isolated. This house is very isolated on Long Island. There are some houses nearby, but definitely driving distance. And they just don't have any information. GH is a finance guy, and he does eventually talk about one of his incredibly wealthy clients hinting that something like this could happen or was going to happen. And so he actually left the city before it got too crazy. And all kind, no television, no phones, no computers, satellites are down. The ship was just the beginning for them. It gets wilder and wilder, but very isolated. So they're just kind of getting little bits and pieces here and there. And there is a very odd dynamic. Yes, race does play a part of it, because you have the white family and the black family, and there's tensions. And it is interesting to see how these 2 families work together and don't get along at times. And it only takes place over a couple of days, so it's the very beginning. So if you are somebody who needs a film where everything is wrapped up with a little bow by the end and all your questions are answered, this is not it. And I think that's where a lot of people have problems with this film. I, on the other hand, am fine with that, as long as the rest of the film works. And for me, the rest of the film absolutely worked. I need to know all the specifics, because you feel like one of these people, you're getting everything that they know. And so we don't need all the information. Their point of view is our point of view. So we don't need to know any more than that, because we need to feel just as lost and confused as they do. I think what my favorite thing about it was, that part's interesting because most, like I said, most apocalyptic films, it's very like chaotic, intense, and dangerous. This has that tension, but it's a very eerie tension. It's not like extreme, with looting and violence and everything like that. It's a very different kind of unsettling unease. And I don't know the best way to describe it except to say it felt like a very 70s style film with some very almost overwhelming music choices, or like score. The score is very overwhelming at times. There's some interesting camera zooming. It felt very nostalgic, vintage. I don't even know how to really put it. It's definitely modern day, but it felt very old school. And I really like that about it. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of 70s stuff, but I've seen enough of it to feel like it would fit in there if it weren't for all the modern day technology. So I really enjoyed it. Again, I can see where if you don't like ambiguous endings, or hell, even plots. The world fell apart, but how, like, if you need those answers, this is not going to be for you. But otherwise, I really, really clearly really enjoyed it. And I think the way it was filmed just made it even better for me. So definitely a 3. Like, I was shocked. I did not see this coming. I just added this to my list recently. It hasn't been sitting on my list like a lot of other things. It was suggested as I was going through some of these Netflix movies. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. Maybe I'll check it out. So it's not even what I've been anticipating, and it was a very nice surprise. So I liked it very much. Now, next on my list is probably the second oldest one that was on the list, from 2018, The Outlaw King, or just Outlaw King. I don't think there was a "the" in there. Now, I know you're seeing the color yellow. This is one of those awkward moments where it is a very well-made movie. There's literally nothing wrong production-wise, acting-wise, story, nothing. It's just, I've seen it, and now I don't need to watch it again. So it is about Robert Bruce, or Robert the Bruce. I'm not really sure how that naming system works. Played by Chris Pine, and I'll get into that. But it's after, like, everything that William Wallace did, and Scotland has now pledged loyalty to the King of England, Edward the whichever first, I guess. And then William Wallace is killed, tortured and killed, and Robert the Bruce, his father has just died, so now he's kind of like one of the head dudes, along with another guy of Scotland, but having pledged loyalty to England and the King of England. And he sees the unrest of the Scottish people, and he's like, yo, we gotta fight back. His exact words, that's a direct quote, yo, we gotta fight back. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so it is about him trying to raise as many Scotsmen as he can to go against England, not exactly an easy task. So, that's it. Like, I'm not great with history, especially history of other countries, for sure. So it was good. It was well made, like I said. I just don't need to watch it again. It was pretty much what I expected, like the underdog story and a lot of sadness with a slightly hopeful ending. My only 2 real nits to pick were, first of all, it does feel short. Like, I know I normally say the exact opposite, like this movie went on like 20 minutes too long. This one comes in just under 2 hours, I think, and it definitely feels like it needed more. It felt a little rushed at times. Like, this felt like it needed to be bigger and more epic. And it wasn't that. Like, especially, I'd say the last act felt really kind of rushed. But, that's okay. Better to, not outstay your welcome, I suppose. Second of all, why Chris Pine for this, like, legendary historical Scottish figure? Why Chris Pine? No offense to Mr. Pine. He is a fine actor. He did a good job. I guess, like, I don't know. Like, to my American ear, I thought his accent was fine. He doesn't speak a lot in the movie. So I don't know if that's just how Robert the Bruce was, or if they're just like, well, let's cut down his lines. He really doesn't talk a lot, but I still don't understand why Chris Pine. Like, why are we doing this still in, like, 2018? But, then that just opens up a whole can of worms for a lot of other films and actors. not of that country to play historical figures, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it was an interesting choice. I don't understand it, but okay, you know, whatever. If we must, we must. That's it for Outlaw King. I'm glad I finally get to knock it off my list, but I don't need to revisit it, like, ever. And then I left Netflix. So I've cut a lot of my Netflix list down. I did add some stuff too, unfortunately, but I did cut a lot of my Netflix list down, and I hopped over to HBO Max or HBO, whatever we're calling it these days, because last year, I believe, they put out a film adaptation of Turtles All the Way Down, the YA novel by John Green, which I just read last year for the first time. It revolves around Asa, who is, oh, wow. She's OCD, but like real OCD, not like I need, you know, all my pins in a nice, neat order, you know, OCD. People like to call themselves. No, she's like for real OCD, hypochondriac, anxiety disorder, a lot of unfun stuff. And she's a teenager. She lives with her mom. Her dad has passed away when she was younger. And it's her dealing with all of that and trying to navigate the world as a teenager, and that her much more outgoing, wilder best friend Daisy by her side. And then there's a very interesting plot about her reconnecting with a childhood friend named Davis, who is a billionaire whose father just disappeared under mysterious circumstances. That part's always really odd to me. It has been about a year and a half since I read the book, so I don't remember everything, but I remember a lot of stuff, and this was very close. There's definitely one major part, like where Davis takes her to Chicago to meet some professor at the university there that she wants to go to, and I don't remember any of that happening in the book. But it's been a year and a half, but I don't think that happened in the book. Anyway, I think it was as faithful adaptation as it could be. John Green does have like a whole 3-second cameo as her PE coach, PE teacher at school. At first, I was a little annoyed because there are like flashes of like microscopic things, because her brain is always thinking about microorganisms and what can make her sick, and it's very intense being inside her head. Of course, you get that first person point of view from the book, but in the movie, they would just like flash these like you know, little organisms, microscopic organisms on screen whenever she was having problems dealing with what's around her. And I guess at first I was kind of like, it's getting a little annoying, but I think it was probably maybe the best way to kind of connect to that first person point of view that we don't exactly get because it's a movie and not a book. So after a while, I'm like, okay, I see what you did there. I don't 100% love it, but I see what they were going for, and I can accept it. I like Daisy a lot more in the movie, actually, than the book. The book, she kind of drove me crazy, the best friend. I was like, but I did like her a lot more in the movie. I guess sometimes you just need the right person playing the character to make them more likable. I did feel like it got to like the third act where it felt very... Reading the book, it did not feel stereotypical teen book at that point. The movie made it feel like a stereotypical teen movie at that point, where she and Daisy get in a big fight because Daisy's like, everything's always about you, Asa, and I try to deal with it, but like, you are just too much involved in your own self, you know. She has, you know, problems, like, understandable, but I can understand Daisy's point of view too. So they get in a big fight, and so like the last act is kind of Asa coming up with a way to make it up to her and their other friend Michael, and dealing with Davis, and it just hits this point where it feels like a teen movie, whereas the book is a YA book, but it doesn't have this is definitely like a YA structure. I don't know how else to put it. It feels weird. The movie was a very faithful adaptation of the book, as close as possible, I think, and I would definitely watch it again. And then lastly, I can step over here because I have a rewatch, and I know it's a rewatch, but it is a first, because this is the first time I have rewatched a movie twice in a year. So in February, I rewatched Wicked, because it had just come out on digital and everything after its theater run. I'd only seen it once in the theater, and I knew even then, back in February with that video, I was like, I'm going to watch this again before the end of the year, definitely before the second part comes out, and that's what we did last night, and we got Brad to watch it, because he still had not watched it. He did fall asleep, you guys. Like, I don't know about that man, but I don't think he missed anything major. So hopefully we can get him to go to the second part with us and stay awake. But anyway, do I even have to say anything about this? No, I don't. It's wonderful. It's lovely. It's perfect. Yeah. And you can see that I need to rest this voice. Okay. And that's it for September. I will put 2 extra rows around to bring this all together. I just finished joining the square, so it's a little squished up, but that's okay. Okay, I'm having a coughing spell, so I should probably wrap this up. I hate to do this at the end, but It's the way it goes, you know, colds are gonna cold. All right, so it was really nice having a plan this month. I'm glad I got a lot of stuff knocked out off a watch list. Feels good. And that's it for September. Come back on Wednesday, October 1st. I know, crazy, right? Not a Monday? No, because I am posting every day in the month of October. So I bought this book, A Crochet World of Creepy Creatures and Cryptids, back in February. I was looking for something completely different, and I just came across this and bought this. I don't even remember what I was looking for, but I bought this. And I had been planning, I thought, oh, it'd be really fun to make one a day in October, but I need to get started like really early because knowing me, I won't be able to do that if I don't start like in March. I did not start in March though. I actually started at the very end of July, so I have been pre-recording for the last 2 months, making one of these creatures every day. I wrote all of the patterns down, all the names, and I pull one out every day to see what we're doing that day. As of recording right this minute, I have done 23 videos. I've made them, I have not edited them all, but we will start it off on the 1st with our very first cryptid. It's exciting. I've already put a lot of work into it, and I have an entire box of cryptids and creatures, mythical legends and folklore amigurumi under my desk here, and I can't wait to show them all. So come back on Wednesday. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube things, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.